I was been watching videos on YouTube as usual, just random shit. Um, and I started watching. I was watching music videos. I was watching pop culture stuff. And and I just got to thinking that um, I've always been what's that phrase, ahead of the curve. When I think about it in hindsight, like I was watching some Metallica videos on YouTube, and I remember when I was a kid, like even before I started going to school, like before kindergarten, like 4 years old, I remember jamming out to like a whole bunch of like thrash metal bands, and stuff. And I remember, I think I was in first or second grade. I want to say maybe second grade. I got sent home, and I had it's happened like three different times where I didn't learn my lesson because fuck the establishment, But I wore different Metallica shirts that my cousins had gave me or let me borrow because I was a big fan of Metallica back then. So I remember one time I wore a Master of Puppets shirt, and they said, "Oh, that's you can't wear stuff with crosses on it. That's evil, whatever and stuff." So then a month or two later, I got in trouble for wearing Ride the Lightning because there was a skull in the back, in the electric chair getting shocked. And you can't have skulls and stuff because that's evil. And I was like, fuck you. And the one, I guess, that broke the camel's back was my Metal Up Your Ass shirt, which was a picture of a toilet on the front of the shirt. And there's a hand coming out with a fucking knife, and it says Metal Up Your Ass. And that one I had on, and I knew better because I already happened twice before. I remember wearing like one of those, like another shirt to kind of go over it, and then some little fucking pussy ass fucking narc ass kid was all like miss, and told the teacher that I had it, and the teacher looked at it and was like, like what is this? Go to the office, and then the office were like, like how dare you, and I remember that little fucker too. If I ever see him to this, like if I ever see him, I'm gonna kick the shit out of him. I ain't gonna name his name in case people know him. Then they might give him a warning, be like, "Hey, man, if you ever run into him at like a high school reunion or something, it's like, hey, what's up?" you know. But and then I just remember growing up, people used to tell me. I mean, like all my friends and kids I went to school with were like, because I listened to that stuff, they were like, "What the fuck's wrong with you? That's stupid. That's evil music. That's stupid. You don't even understand what they're saying. It's stupid. Metallica's stupid. You're stupid for listening to. And this is guys and girls will, they'll be like, what the hell is Metallica? That's stupid. I'd bring a Walkman to school and what are you listening to? And it's like, Megadeth. That sounds stupid. And it's like, and I'm like, well, fuck you and fuck your mama and fuck your whole family. But, and then of course, once like the mid 90s, came about, and after the Black Album and after like all this stuff, there were people, those same people, kids that would give me shit about it when I was little, would be all like, "Hey, have you heard the new Metallica album? Have you got the new CD yet? It's pretty cool. It's got that song about the Sandman and stuff." And it's like, and I just wanted to grab all these people and get like a tack hammer and just beat the living shit out of them, because I was like, when we were 5 and I was in school, and I had my Metallica shirts, and I had my Metallica or Megadeth and Slayer and all my shit on my my mixtape on my headphones. Y'all gave me so much shit about it. Now you're like, oh my god, have you listened? And I just wanted to beat the shit out of these people so bad, because it was like. But then again, like I said, that was 15. I don't know how many years, like 10, 12, whatever years before that I was and stuff, and then like. With zombies, I remember when I was in first grade, we used to get the little worksheets, with like 10, 15 problems on it, like word problems or like math problems. And I always got done early. And so I would sit there and be like, well, shit, we got like 45 minutes till the end of the day or before, lunch or whatever. And it's like, what do I do? I'm done with, my paper. I already, so it was like the teacher would be like, oh, just turn your paper over and wait for, everybody else to get done. And then I'll come by and collect them or whatever. So I had to sit there for like, like an hour or 45 minutes being quiet, and I couldn't, I was like trying to get my friend's attention, like, hey, bitch, what are you doing, and I get in trouble for that. So I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna draw. And of course, being a kid, like even when I was like, that little, I was into horror movies. I mean, I remember watching The Exorcist when I was like 3 or 4 years old and just loved it. Dawn of the Dead, all those movies. Night of the Living, Night of the Living Dead. Nightmare on Elm Street, Terminator, stuff like that. And so I would draw like zombies and stuff, and like my friends and my kids, and like even the, I guess the teachers really didn't care what I drew because they're, all kids draw stupid shit anyway. But like people were like, "Why are you drawing evil stuff? Why are you so devilish? You're such a devil. You're this, you're that, you're that." And then those same people today will be like, "Dude, have you seen the new Walking Dead? Like, oh my god, it's like so good, And it's like, motherfucker, I was 3, 4 years old, into zombies before they were cool, before fuckheads like you were like, oh my god, did you see the new one, the new episode? It's so good, And it's like, tack hammer. But yeah, and then like like video games, like I mean, of course, that's kind of a different thing. But like when we were kids, we played video games, for fun. But with me, it was a little more. It was a little bit different. Like you name a game that like a game that I've played, I could tell you to exactly when I played. Like people say, you can't remember the first time you played Donkey Kong. I said, yes, I can. I was like, I think I was like 4.5, almost not quite 5, but I was still 4. And there was a drive-in in Austin, and they had it at the concession stand. And I remember they had Galaga, they had Donkey Kong, and then they had those little cocktail tables of Mrs. Pac-Man. And nobody ever used the Miss Pac-Man. I guess nobody wanted to sit down and play. They just like to stand up and, But I remember playing Donkey Kong. I was like, ooh. And I was like, because I come from a small town. So at the time, there was no arcades. So you see, a place that had a whole shitload of them. You're like, oh, And that became my thing. Anywhere I went, I was all like, they got, one of those. Oh, cool. And that's like I would focus no matter what. We'd be in like, my parents would take us out to like, Mr. Gaddy's or like Pizza Hut or something or anywhere. And I'd be like, yeah, just, pepperoni, I don't care. And I'm saying, oh, they got it. And I'd go over there and look, like my intention just went towards the video games and stuff. And then, like it was, I don't want to say it was an obsession, but it was like, yeah, it was an obsession. Let's just go with that. And then as I got older, I became what I call, I mean, even before like, the millennials and all these like hipster motherfuckers are like, like buying like old retro games. I was even to this day, I still have, I would go to a flea market. I go to, somebody's house and they have like an old Nintendo or an Atari or something just sitting in the corner collecting dust. I'm like, hey, so is that whatever? And the way I felt was, I used to call it, I was a video game philanthropist or like an archaeologist, because I'd go somewhere like at a flea market, or somewhere, or a garage sale, and they'd have like a box with like a, old games or old stuff, and then like, they're like, yeah, $10, $5, just, you can fucking have it if you want, and I'm like, okay, that'll work, And then of course, like fast forward, like, 20 years later, 15 years later, 10 years later, I've got me like, all these Nintendos and Super Nintendos and all these, systems and stuff. And then I started collecting like different systems. Like I think at one point I had pretty much every video game system known to man. I mean, even the little obscure ones are like, oh, I've never heard of this one. It's like, I got it. Or, and stuff. And just, I don't know, it was just, became like a thing, and it all started from when I was a kid, and stuff. And then now, those same people are like, oh my God, I got you. And it's like, bitch, please. But yeah, I mean, and just a lot of stuff that, like I, like movies, I remember, I think I've talked about this before, but when I was a kid, I was lucky that I had a VCR, and this. I mean, I know that sounds like fucking ancient technology to now when you I got Blu-ray 4K HD, it's like, well, fucker, in the 80s there wasn't fucking 4K HD, you cocksucking motherfucker. So, you had your choice of a Betamax or a VHS, VCR. And luckily, we had one. So this was the beginning of the whole, video rental place, thing, in early to mid 80s. And so when I got to kindergarten and school, and like I would ask kids, hey, so what movies have you seen? They're like, the Care Bear movie, I've seen Bambi, and they're like, what about you? I'm like, The Terminator or Nightmare on Elm Street, and they're like, what's that? So of course, being a little enthusiastic, I can't say that word, enthusiastic little boy that I would be like, ooh, well, let me tell you, I'm like, and I remember a couple of times for like show and tell, or, like the teacher would be like, hey, what do you guys do this weekend, and so, a lot of kids, oh, we went fishing, or we went to my Aunt Mavis's house and we made meatloaf, and, we went to a carnival, and of course, little Johnny comes up and it's like, what did you do? And I said, oh, we watched movies. And of course, the first question when you say that is, ooh, what did you watch? So then I would proceed to inform my classmates and my teacher of what movies I watched. And I'm like, oh, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, or Friday the 13th. Oh, what's that about? So then, of course, I'd have to describe what I watched. And, of course, I'd start from the beginning of the movie and go all the way to the end and be like, okay, so it starts off, there's this girl and this guy, and he's got, like, a sweater on. He's like, all burnt in his face because they burned him in the fire. And he's got a brown hat, and he's got a glove, and he's got knives on, and he starts stabbing people. And I started describing the scenes like, okay, there's one girl and this guy, they're sleeping in the bed because they did something. I'm not sure what they did, but they did something. And then, like, they wake up, and Freddy Krueger, he can't see him because he's invisible. He's in her dreams. And he starts stabbing her, and she's stabbing her in the stomach, and blood's everywhere. And, or like, Jason comes out of the forest, and he has a machete, and he, cuts off this dude's head, and, of course, the people are like, and I'm pretty sure I sent a lot of my classmates home with fucking, nightmares of Freddy Krueger and, cyborgs sent from the future to kill Sarah Connor in their fucking brains and psyches for, for the next month or so. And, like movies like The Exorcist, I loved as a kid, and even to this day, I mean, that's like, the George Romero movies, I mean, there's like, like family members, and I know that sounds stupid to compare, films to, but I mean, it's something that I've always, like, just like family, you say, oh, I remember my dad, my grandma, my uncle, my cousins, my whatever, and it's something that you remember all your life, and you have that fond memory. Oh, I remember this, remember that. But I have that same bond with film, with movies, and so, that's something that I've had my whole life, and so yeah, I think about a lot of stuff like that that's relevant now, and how all of a sudden it's like cool, but when I was a kid, it wasn't cool. I was a real intelligent little boy, but you try to hide that when you're a kid, because oh, he's a nerd, he's a geek, he's a whatever and stuff, so like when I was in kindergarten, my dad had taught me to read when I was like 3 years old, so when I get to kindergarten, I was already reading because my cousins were in like third, fourth grade. They're older than me, and a lot of them live with me, so I would see their books, and I'd be, reading them, and they'd be like, I don't understand, and here is a little fucking 3 and 4 year old kid, like, instructing some kid that's like 7, 8 years old, and be like, oh, well, basically it's they're saying it or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, and so I get to kindergarten, and it's like, this is an A, as in apple, and I'm looking around like, did they accidentally put me in a retarded class? Or, is there, did they, and I would tell my mom, I think they put me in the wrong class. And she's like, why? It's like, these kids are fucking morons. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, they don't fucking know anything, And I was assuming when I got to, like school that, kids were like, so I'd be like, hey, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, So of course, I didn't want to get that. I wanted to be the cool kid. So I would be like, oh yeah, reading's stupid. Who needs to know math? Math's stupid. Oh, science, that's dumb. History, but in my head, I was like, ooh, that's fast. Ooh, I didn't know that. Ooh, that's cool. And now it's like, I'm a geek and I'm proud and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think like a lot of stuff that I was really big into as a kid, like ahead of the curve, like if you would have asked me when I was like 4 or 5 years old, like, do you see like, zombies being in, fucking car commercials, IHOP commercials or whatever, and it's like, no. I'm like, just because there was so much hatred if you told somebody you're into zombies, that's, oh, that's stupid. You're dumb. That's, you know, why watch zombie movies when there's Breaking and Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo? And it's like, what was I thinking? But, that's just me, and I think about it, and it's like all that shit kind of like, is the reason why I'm the person I am today. So, but I don't know. I just thought about that. I was watching a whole bunch of videos and I just started thinking about when I was a kid and just thinking about how many times like people told me that what I was into way back then, like, I'm 39 years old, I'm knocking on 40's door. And, I mean, that's 35, 36 years ago, 38, 37 years ago. And, like that I was into like a lot of stuff that's relevant now, and like, and honestly, if you would have told the younger me, like I said, about, oh, do you know there's going to be like, video game systems that you can, like do virtual reality on, I would have been like, you're fucking stupid. That shit ain't real, that'll never happen, The internet, information flying through the air, No, I'm just kidding. But no, I probably would have believed you. I would have been like, dude, and I would tell my friend, dude, in like 20 years from now, there's gonna be this thing called the internets. And I don't know what really the internets stands for, but it's called the internets, and you can get on there and you can find anything. You can see boobies for free. No. Yeah, I probably would have believed if somebody told me, But yeah, I'm just thinking about that. Just, like I was so ahead of the curve, and I've noticed. I mean, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but like people that know me can, like there are a lot of times when there's like an actor that nobody really likes, and it's like, oh, like, they've only been in 2 movies, and those movies suck dick, and it was like, I don't know, I like this guy or I like this girl, she's a pretty good actress. I notice when she does this, or his guy when he does this, he's real spot on, and then 5 years later, it's like the biggest, highest paid actor in the world, and it's like, told you. Or like I like to watch WWE wrestling, and there are a lot of times where I'll see a wrestler, and that's another thing I was really into as a kid, that, and my grandpa and my grandpa would watch wrestling, and, it was, like right at the beginning of the whole WWF, before it became WWE. And even before, like a lot of stuff before that, like the Von Erichs and all that shit, in the early 80s, I remember, and stuff. And then now, it's a fucking multi-billion-dollar corporation, who would have thought? But even then with like wrestlers, like even back then, like there were wrestlers I liked. And of course everybody's like, oh, you gotta like Hulk Hogan, he's the best, you gotta like, I mean, I kind of like this guy over here. And then they're like, he's stupid, he never wins. And then like 10 years later, it's all like, oh my God, he's a, like I remember the Ringmaster, well, Stone Cold. I liked him in WCW when he was stunning Steve Austin. He was, great tag team champion and television champion, I remember. And I liked that. I said, oh, he's pretty cool, and I was always a fan. But everybody was like, well, but there's like, this person Sting and there's Lex Luger. I'm like, yeah, those guys are all right. But, and I was always into those these, like Cactus Jack. I was a big Cactus Jack fan before he became Mick Foley, the Mankind, and, oh, Mick, And I was a big fan of his back in the 80s when he came out. I remember, you know, he had feuds with a lot of people like Vader and Sting and stuff. And, you know, he was just this, you know, I liked him. Everybody else hated his guts, but I liked him, you know. And then, of course, fucking like 25 years later, he's, you know, or 20 years later, he's, you know, world champion. Go fucking figure, you know. And, but there's been a lot of times where I would get into something and people always, never fails. They always tell me, dude, that's stupid. You know, that's never going to work. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I always liked it. And it's like, really? You always liked it, huh? And it's like, yeah, I mean, I remember telling you like 20 years ago that was gonna be cool. Remember? And it was like, no. I remember you telling me that I was an idiot because I liked it. And now all of a sudden you're on board. And it's like, you know, story of my life, you know. But yeah, just thinking about that. I don't even know who's gonna watch this video. I don't think anybody ever watches videos unless it's like a fucking retarded ass TikTok video. But fuck it. It's like 3 in the morning, and yeah. Anyways, this is your old pal Johnny, just dropping some history and just some stuff. So yeah, fuck off.